Welcome to C3 in this together, 30 minutes in our own voice for our series, Disabling Disabilities. Today's topic is Caregivers and Dementia. We will hear from someone with a lived experience who's coping, managing, and navigating the journey of dementia. My hope throughout this series is that together, we will be the generation that ends the silence, the shame, and the stigma of dementia. Today, our guest, and I'm so honored to have with us, Janeen joins. Janeen is a caregiver and a Carepartner advocate, and also the founder of Carepartner. Janeen, we're so glad to have you with us today.
Thank you so much, Mr. Cassell, Dr. Cassell, Morais.
There you go. On a personal note, Janeen and I have been friends since our college days. That's just a couple years ago, right, Janeen?
Right, just a couple, not too long ago.
Yeah, not too long ago. So it's so honored to have with me my dear and treasured friend for this series. But before we jump into our time together, as mentioned again, Janeen is a caregiver and she is the founder and also an advocate of Carepartner. But before we jump in to our time, I wanted to share some statistics with you surrounding dementia, this topic that we'll talk about today. So according to the Center for Disease Control, or the CDC, current estimates are that about 5.8 million people in the United States have Alzheimer's disease and related dementia. We also know through research that Hispanics and African Americans in the United States will see the largest increases in Alzheimer's disease and related dementia between the years of 2015 and 2060, right? So also here's what we know from research. Among all races, women are nearly 2 times more likely to be affected by Alzheimer's disease than men. Another research that we want to share with you is that according to the World Health Organization, currently there are more than 55 million people who are living with dementia worldwide. Here's what the research tells us, that it's so important that we talk about dementia because early diagnosis and early awareness are the keys to navigating this journey. We also do know from research is that most people currently living with dementia have not received a formal diagnosis. So our time together today is so important, so vital as we talk about the needs surrounding dementia. So Ms. Janeen, let's go ahead and jump into our time together. Let's begin with our first question. Tell us your story surrounding dementia.
Well, if we rewind to, I would say, 2017, I could think of a few symptoms that my husband, Stefan, was exhibiting at that time that I did not note as anything significant. And some of those odd behaviors were things related to our wedding preparation. So, of course, you know that we have to get a list together of people to invite. And I thought it was kind of odd that he couldn't write down addresses properly. The name, the address, it was just inconsistent and very the pattern wasn't consistent. Sometimes he would put the address next to the name. It was just very odd to me. Another thing was, a lot of people always think of dementia, they think of memory loss. And it's not just memory loss. That is the way it shows itself a lot. But the memory loss is different. So the poor short-term memory loss. So there was a time that we were driving in 2 separate vehicles. We were driving and we were talking on the phone. And I was reviewing some things that were related to the wedding. And I was reminding him that we were going to meet at a certain place at a certain time that evening. And he confirmed that he remembered and we're going to do these things. And after we had finished that part of our conversation, I would say maybe within 30 seconds or less, he said, well, so since we're not doing anything this evening, why don't we just, and that just kind of took me by surprise. So I noted that. I thought it was odd, but you keep on moving. Another situation was with finances, planning. Soon after marriage, of course, the accounts weren't merged yet, and we were talking about finances. And I was saying, should I transfer money into your account? How should we deal with this? And then he would run down the list of expenses that we had, and it seemed like he had it all under control. But before the end of the week, we had maybe 3 or 4 NSF notifications, and what happened? And he was just as shocked as I was. It wasn't as if he was trying to hide anything, but I just thought it was odd. And so these are just a few of the examples of the behaviors that I saw. One thing that I thought was very endearing was sometimes we would disagree on something, and then later on he would come back to me and apologize very sincerely.
Right.
And I would like, oh, honey, it's fine. I understand where you're going or what you meant. And we continued on in our evening. And then before the night ends, he would apologize with the same intensity the second and third time. Yeah, oh, and I thought it was, it was very endearing to me, but at the same time, very odd. So I just yeah, we talked about that and it's fine. You're fine. Please don't, beat yourself up over those things. And he would accept that, but those were noted occurrences.
Wow.
So talking to a friend, she said, Janeen, I think you need to get him tested. And she said this a few times, but one time she said, listen to me, you need to get him tested. So I brought it up to his doctor, and I told her, he has some short-term memory issues. There's some things going on that just don't make sense. And I think we need to get him tested. And Stefan is very engaging, funny. He made her laugh. Oh, no, he doesn't have any problems. And she did a little test and he didn't do that well, but she said, oh, I'm sure that's not even a problem. But she appeased me and wrote a referral. Right. And so we just continued on. I made the appointment and it was with a neuropsychologist on a November Friday morning. And we went and took the test. They allowed me to be there. It was about maybe, I would say 3 to 4 hours long. Very simple questions in many cases. What the season was, what year was it, current events, who's the president, what year was it? And his answer for that was 1918. And I said, 1918. And then I looked at the doctor and I said, well, maybe we just need to pose it differently. And so she re-said it, but he stuck with 1918. And I was just surprised by the various answers he was giving, or did not know the answers to simple arithmetic problems. He could not calculate in his mind. He could not spell simple 4 or 5 letter words backwards. And I know he wasn't doing well at the test, but I didn't think that the following week when we went back, that we would get a proposed or a suggested diagnosis of early onset Alzheimer's disease. The neuropsychologist said, I can't say that definitively. I want to send you to a neurologist and talk to her and look at all of the tests, the CAT scans and things, and see what she thinks. And let me just slow down a little bit. That was like devastating news where, I mean, when she said early onset Alzheimer's disease, I think all the breath went out of my body.
Mhm.
I had no clue. I did not even think we were going to go there. It didn't even occur to me that that could even be a possibility. I thought maybe there's just a vitamin deficiency, or
Right.
we just need to do some type of treatment and it'll be all over and we'll just resume with our lives. But she had to rush me some Kleenex. And the interesting thing is that it didn't even phase Stefan. He did not hear the diagnosis.
Right.
He wasn't in tuned at that time. And that was part of the disease. He was focused on her talking about maybe you want to stop driving. She had just, snuck that in a little bit, or think about whether or not that's a good thing for you. And so he was in his mind thinking, that's my livelihood. He was a driver for the state of Maryland, very reliable worker. He helped people all over the campus. He was just a stellar employee. And I was noticing that he loved his job. When we first met, that's all he talked about was work, and how, he loved to work and what he loved to help people. And he started hating his job. He started dreading going to work. And that was unlike him. So this diagnosis was just very, it affected both of us very significantly. We had to make adjustments in our thinking. We had to make adjustments in our lives, and we didn't know what to do. We had to figure out things. And, there was a lot of grief. I don't think people realize that part of dementia. When you hear that type of diagnosis, there's a grieving process. You've lost some parts of what you think your future should look like. And so I was grieving, and I think I'm going to talk a little bit about that a little bit later in our discussion. But the adjustments were real, and we had to figure out how to live. And we realized we had made vows to one another about life and sickness and in health. And I wanted to reassure him that that's the commitment I meant. I did not say that lightly. Let's fast forward a little bit to this year, which is June 11th of this year. Stefan woke up with a very bad stomach ache, and it didn't go away. So I took him to the ER, and we found out he had appendicitis, and we had to have emergency surgery. And dementia affects even, things that surgeons typically do on a daily basis. His recovery took 26 days. His stomach was asleep because his brain wasn't talking to it.
Mhm.
And we don't realize that our brain is very key, not only to our emotions, but to our physical body, all aspects of how we live and function. So we've been going through for the past 3 months, just trying to get over that. And right now he's still in a nursing home, being treated with his medications to be adjusted. And we have good news. Hopefully he'll be home finally on Friday. So that's where we are right now. It's been a 3-month journey trying to recover from that appendicitis and getting him back into the home life, and seeing how the Lord continues to work through this this disease, and how we can help other people. So
Oh,
that's a bit of our story in a nutshell.
nutshell. Janeen, thank you so much for sharing your story.
Mhm.
As I listen to your story, and of course, I've been privy from a personal standpoint, but as I listen to your story in this moment, as we're going to recording, I couldn't help but think that you're giving voice to so many others who are navigating this journey of dementia and other things that they might be managing. So thank you, because as you've shared your story, you're allowing others to, as I mentioned, to gain voice in sharing their own stories. You're turning the lights on the things that ails us in our experiences. You're ending the silence, the shame, and the stigma. But thank you for taking your pain and turning it into purpose. And that's what I see in this moment. I know that we're people of faith. We're deeply grounded in our faith. It's what helps us to cope, manage, and navigate. But you're taking your story and you're representing the good things that comes out of our faith. So thank you so much. I want us to move to the next question. But even before we do that, I wanted to highlight something that I think is so important to mention to those who will be listening and watching. You mentioned about your encounter with the primary care provider, your doctor, and just the diagnosis that happened and perhaps some diagnoses that were not made. We do want to remind people, be your own advocate. And I want to say that so loud, be your own advocate. Remember, you're the expert in your stories, your story, your narratives, your experiences. So I always tell people, please be your own advocate. If it doesn't match up with what you're seeing, if it doesn't match up with the signs, the things that you see, the symptoms, the things that's reported, if it's impacting your daily functioning, right? If it's happening for a long period of time, then my friends, that's the time to advocate for yourself and because again, you're the expert in your story.
Right.
So I really wanted to highlight that. I love saying this, and it's so true that the doctors, while they are the experts, you really are the experts. All right. Let's move to our next question. What would you say to someone or a loved one who's dealing with dementia personally or as a caregiver?
Well, I think the first thing is don't ignore your feelings. They're real. I think I just shared this with my brother-in-law a couple days ago. The grief was very significant, but I had to be careful about how I expressed it because my husband was dealing with the actual illness. And there was nothing he could do about it. He didn't bring it on himself. And I didn't want to add to that. So every shower, I think for 2 months, I cried an ugly cry. That's the only, that was the place where I could just let go. So feel all the feelings. Don't ignore them. Involve others for support. There was a good friend who I tell you, she spoke to me every day. I would say we didn't miss a day for probably 1.5 years. Just processing the different things I observed and just what I was feeling. It's a natural tendency to kind of isolate yourself, but it's not the time. You need to be involved in your relationships, those people who really are healthy for you and who will help you to process those feelings and help you to understand what you're going through and just listen, And I'm a very independent-minded person, and I just kind of go on to the next thing. I get it done. But these are the things that you can't just get done. It's going to take time. And so allow yourself to grieve, involve others. And I want to live and continue to enjoy life and provide that for my husband as well. Soon after the diagnosis, we went on our first cruise together. He enjoyed it immensely and still wants to do another one. So I pray that very soon we'll be able to do that again. I don't want to stop life. I want him to continue to enjoy it, to do the things that he loves. He loves God's great creation. Every time we are outside and it's green and the sky is blue, he makes sure to remind me who created it and how beautiful it is. So we try to enjoy just the simple things in life. Medication also is there to help us manage and to treat the illness. It's very important that we get a good doctor involved who understands how medication can be prescribed to help with the different symptoms that the person is going through. So my husband has problems with hallucinations, delusions, perceptions of reality. And those things can be managed so that they're not distressing to him, that they don't cause paranoia and very difficult living situations where he's just having a very hard time. And so I think I'm very thankful that we have good doctors around us who, when I see something changing, I definitely involve him. Okay, this has been happening for the past 3 days. And then he responds and we tweak some things with his medicine. Also, environmental changes as well. Sometimes you just have to simplify things. And I was decluttering our home, making it simpler because Stefan is a helper. He wants to throw things away. He wants to organize things. He wants to be a help to me. And if he sees a piece of paper that he thinks he can address or help me handle, he may mistakenly throw it away or misplace it. So I have to make sure that we have an organized life. Research and educate yourself. You must do that. I don't think there's a day that goes by that I don't look up something about dementia. And I did not tell you that later on in mid 2019, he was re-diagnosed with Lewy bodies dementia, which is a different type of dementia than Alzheimer's disease and often undiagnosed. And it's very challenging. It was diagnosed because his hallucinations were so vivid and affecting all 5 senses. He would smell things burning. He felt things jabbing him. So the doctor re-diagnosed him with Lewy bodies dementia, which is very similar to Parkinsonism. So he will develop rigidity in time. And we're seeing some of that happen where his hands just kind of freeze or he doesn't know how to move. And then keep good records and notes about everything. When you're talking to a doctor or when you think this might be a good activity, just take notes. And then the hardest thing is end of life plans. And I kind of slept on this, but it's just very difficult to talk about a will and insurance and different things, but it's very important to know what their desires are. You're going to be the person who makes sure those things are executed in a way that they would want them executed. So it's good to talk about what they want and how they want things to be carried out so that you can be their true advocate with their voice. So those are just a few things like grief, support one another, support involving people, research and taking notes and thinking about plans for the end of life.
Thank you for those amazing insights from your personal journey. And I just want to highlight a few things quickly before we move on. What you mentioned earlier, that dementia is a holistic experience. It's a biopsychosocial, spiritual experience. And we want people to be aware of that, right? It's not just one aspect that's impacted, but it's the total person, the biological, the psychological, the social, the spiritual aspect of things are impacted as well. So thank you for giving us those amazing insights. Also want to highlight what you said about grief, right? And what I often tell people in therapy as we deal with grief, whatever the grief might look like, allow grief to flow through you, right? Allow it to go through you, allow it to be processed through you, navigate that experience. And I like what you said, and I'll highlight it, which is feel what you feel. I tell people, feel all of those emotions, right? Then name it. Excuse me, feel it, then name it, because if you name it, you can tame it. That's what we know, and then deal with it. So thank you for just reminding us of the importance of that experience of feeling those feelings that are so real to you, the individual. And that's so important. And then the last thing I wanted to highlight is the importance of inviting people in. And I'll say that, just so strongly that people have to be invited into your experience. So invite trusted people into your journey. Let's move to the next question. What do you want people to know about managing dementia as it relates to not only dementia, but the mental health aspect of dementia?
For the person that is actually impacted, like the person diagnosed with the disease, I feel like it's very important to be with them, to reassure them. They're going through so many different emotions. They don't know what's next or if they're in the right place or what's going on, but you have to reassure them and make them feel like they're in a safe place, like they matter still, that you still love them and that you're going to be there, through the process. And everybody's process is going to be different. Don't assume that your process will be clear of a nursing home or demand that you always take care of them at home. It's very important that you understand that those things are limited and unique to each care team, both the the care partners, both the person diagnosed and the caregiver. I think we also need to meditate on truth. Don't make up things about the future and how things may turn out bleak. I think a lot of the stigma comes from the thought that life, once you're diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease or Parkinsonism or something, life is over, but it's not. It's not over. You still have today. Enjoy it. Mm-hmm. I think that truth should help us to heal, not the truth that hurts. I'm talking about the truth that helps us to heal and build and enjoy and not destroy. So I think those things are very important, to meditate on those truths of life. And don't deceive yourself into thinking that, oh, I got this. Mm-hmm. No one has it. We all have difficulties. We all need help. And so allow yourself to mentally process it. It took me a while to find a good therapist even. I wanted to make sure that I wasn't denying myself of help. And I was able to find someone who was like-minded, who has a background in dementia, and she's worked with people with dementia for 30, 40 years. So take the time to make sure that you're helping yourself, you're processing well with a person who's a professional who can help you navigate this course of life.
Oh, thank you so much. It's so important that we manage our mental health. And I love what you said, excuse me, about, the importance of taking care of yourself. And we want to really highlight that for people. Give yourself permission to take care of yourself. And I really want to, let that resound to those who are managing this experience. One of the things we often, we borrow from the experience of being on a plane, where they tell you, put on your own mask first, right?
Right.
Help others, put on your own mask. And one of the things we've been encouraging people, we've been using this language in the field, is to surround yourself with mental health millionaires. And I love that, right? These are people who have so much mental health currency that they have enough to deposit in you and still have enough left over for themselves. So please take care of yourself, give yourself permission to live. And I love what you've said, Janeen, and I'm going to steal that, which is meditate on the truth that builds and does not hurt. So I'm stealing that, and I may or may not give you credit, right? Let's move to the next question as we begin to wrap up our time together. What do you want people to know about disabilities, special needs awareness, as it relates particularly to dementia?
Well, dementia is not just a brain problem. It is a brain problem, but not just a brain problem. So when the brain is the control center of your whole body, it controls the nervous system, the muscular system. It controls your organs. It tells you, the color of the room. It gives you information. And so helps to control your emotions. So it's like you said, it's a holistic we should have a holistic approach when we're dealing with dementia. Also, it complicates everything. Dementia, I did not realize how it affects everything. In that same surgery that my husband had, a person who had a healthy brain probably would have been discharged in a week or less. Mm. But his brain was not talking to his stomach and moving those muscles the way that they should have. And so his stomach, it's called an ileus, where your stomach is sleeping. And it's typical with abdominal type surgeries. And the doctors just thought it would just wake up and it just has to go through the course. But it took about 2.5 weeks for it to wake up. It would wake up and then go back to sleep. So his stomach was not moving all of the, food properly through his stomach and his system. And then I want people to, the start of this new venture in my life is to dispel the stigma. Anybody who wants to talk to me, they usually find out that I have a husband with dementia. I tell it to just about anybody, as long as it's appropriate, of course. I'm not gonna burden anybody with extra information that they don't need. But I'm just saying that if it's an appropriate conversation that I can have, I let them know. I don't hold it back. There's no shame. The conversation needs to be had. And anybody who hasn't dealt with someone who has dealt with dementia, sorry to let you know that probably you will, if you live any length of time, you will probably deal with dementia because it's on the rise, just like the statistics, that stuff that Dr. Cassell talked about earlier. It's growing. It's a growing. It feels like an epidemic, and it's a challenge for our nation. So I feel like we need to help one another. And if we're in our corners and we're not talking about it, we're not going to be able to serve others or know how to come alongside someone and be that voice or be that person running errands or helping however they can, or just an ear. It's just very important. It's an important and healthy thing to do, just to talk about this thing.
Janeen, I can't say enough how much we appreciate you being willing to share your story. And I want to pause here and just say to you, thank you for trusting us. Thank you for trusting me with your story. I want people to know who are watching that I hold so sacred this time of sharing with Janeen. Stefan is more than a statistic. He's a real person. And we want people to know this, right? That those statistics that I shared earlier, that there are people behind those statistics. There are loved ones behind those statistics. And we want to make sure that, like you said earlier, that we begin to have this conversation. We become advocates, right? We become people who come alongside people who are journeying and dealing with whatever a diagnosis might be. I've been challenging people, Janeen, as we wrap up our time, to be what I'm calling emotional loan officers. And what I mean by that is we can loan to people what they emotionally need in that moment. You don't have to be a therapist to be therapeutic. You don't have to be a clinician to care, but you can be an emotional loan officer. Loan to people. I can loan you my hope. I can loan you my strength. I can loan you my resiliency. I can loan you my silence in the midst of your chaos. And instead of saying, calm down, I say to you, what can I do to help? And I loan it to you until you can loan it to someone else. So I want to challenge us. That's what this is about today. Janeen, this has been a wealth of resource. Again, we are so thankful that you're sharing your story with us. I believe so many people are going to receive hope. And I love what you said, that at some point, all of us will deal with dementia, Alzheimer's in some way. It may not be our own experience personally, but it might be a loved one. It might be a family member. It might be someone at work. It might be someone in your faith organization, and the list goes on and on. So we want this conversation to get out. Let's turn on the lights on the things that have been holding us captive and in the dark for so long. How can people reach out to you, Janeen?
Well, Prepared to Care Partnership is the community that I'm building on social media. So you can reach out to me on at Janeen, JANEEN.joins, JOINES at PTCP, Prepared to Care Partnership.org. We also will have a page, Prepared to Care, with the number 2 on Facebook, on YouTube, Instagram first, and then we'll branch out on the other social media sites. And then website is also under construction. So if you'd look at www.ptcp.org, you will also find us there as well.
Well, thank you so much, my friends. Thank you for joining us for 30 minutes in our own voice. Our series continues. We want to remind you to subscribe to Janeen's YouTube channel. You're going to see that come up on the screen, Prepared to Care, your care partner community. Also, for more resources surrounding disabilities and special needs and mental health, we invite you to visit our website at C3-In.com. You're going to see that pop up on the screen as well. And also, if you are impacted by this video, please hit the thumbs up button, subscribe to our YouTube channel, C3-In, share this video, comment, and let us know how this video has impacted you so that together we can bring hope to others. My friends, thank you again for joining us for 30 minutes in our own voice. Janeen, thank you, my friend. It's good to see you. Let's catch up sometime as we continue the conversation. Many blessings to you. Many blessings to Stefan. We continue to speak wellness to him on this journey. We speak the language, our faith language of grace, strength, hope, resiliency. And my friends, whatever your faith language might be, your faith experience might be, we ask that you lean into that. Again, Janeen, many blessings to you and your family. And thank you for joining us for 30 minutes in our own voice. We'll see you sometime soon.